U.S. and Cuba meet for high-level talks as part of thaw. The U.S. and Cuba are holding their highest-level talks in decades in the Cuban capital, Havana. The 2 days of talks are part of a thaw in relations between the two rivals announced last month by U.S. President Barack Obama and his Cuban counterpart, Raul Castro. A U.S. official described the first day as productive and collaborative. The talks, which are focusing on migration and restoring full diplomatic ties, resume on Thursday. The U.S. delegation is led by Roberta Jacobson, Assistant Secretary of State and the top U.S. diplomat for Latin America. The last time someone of her level of seniority visited Cuba was 35 years ago. Her deputy, Alex Lee, said, "The productive and collaborative nature of today's discussion proves that despite the clear differences that remain between our countries, the United States and Cuba can find opportunities to advance our mutually shared interests." Cuban Foreign Ministry official Josefina Vidal criticized U.S. migration policies but said Cuba aspired to have a normal relationship with the United States in the broader sense but also in the area of migration. New era. The talks came only hours after Mr. Obama urged Congress to seize the chance to end the U.S. trade embargo against Cuba. BBC correspondent Barbara Plett-Usher says the meetings feel like the beginning of a new era in relations between the two nations. The U.S. will be asking for an end to current restrictions on its diplomats so it can upgrade its interests section in Havana to a full embassy, she adds. Line. Analysis, Will Grant, BBC News, Havana. Both sides say the current talks are being conducted in a spirit of cooperation, but while there is cautious optimism at this stage, officials are keen to manage expectations. The first day of talks on Wednesday focused on the relatively straightforward issue of migration, a topic on which the two countries have a long history of cooperation, despite their political differences. When it comes to certain U.S. migration policies towards Cuba, Havana says it has made its disagreements clear, in particular the so-called wet foot, dry foot policy which gives Cubans preferential treatment in obtaining U.S. citizenship. The Cuban government argues that the policy encourages illegal immigration of its people to the U.S., often using risky rafts to cross the Florida Straits. But the more complex talks are scheduled for Thursday. President Obama has urged Congress to fully lift the economic embargo on the island, something welcomed by Cuba. But there are questions about the speed and direction of change, as well as Washington's long-standing demands for greater freedoms and democracy on the communist island. The movement toward re-establishing diplomatic ties has begun, but full normalization is still a long way off. Line. On Tuesday, President Obama stressed the importance of the thaw in US-Cuban relations in his State of the Union address to Congress. He said his decision to engage with Cuba after decades of frozen relations had the potential to end a legacy of mistrust in our hemisphere. U.S. President Barack Obama delivers his State of the Union address to a joint session of Congress on Capitol Hill in Washington on January 20, 2015. Barack Obama said it was time to try something new in US-Cuban relations. He also urged Congress to begin work on ending the U.S. trade embargo against Cuba, which has been in force for more than 5 decades. In Cuba, we are ending a policy that was long past its expiration date. When what you're doing doesn't work for 50 years, it's time to try something new, he said. The president said the shift in his administration's Cuba policy removed a phony excuse for restrictions in Cuba, stands up for democratic values, and extends the hand of friendship to the Cuban people. However, President Obama does not have the power to lift the embargo, only Congress can do that, and correspondents say many Republicans are still deeply opposed to this.